Good morning. A white-knuckle ride. Passengers aboard a JetBlue plane with a broken nose gear watch their own life and death drama unfold on live TV. This morning, exclusive video from on board that plane. Raging Rita, the massive Category 5 storm changes course, and that could be very bad for New Orleans. And party crashers, some key Democrats are split as the John Roberts nomination goes to a vote today, Thursday, September 22nd, 2005.
From NBC News, this is Today with Katie Couric and Matt Lauer. Live from Studio 1A in Rockefeller Plaza.
And good morning. Welcome to Today on a Thursday morning. I'm Matt Lauer.
And I'm Katie Couric. We're covering two big stories this morning, that dramatic emergency landing and a new forecast about Rita. Sometimes we're prone to hyperbole when talking about these storms, but this one is really scary.
Yeah, Category 5 is huge. It is a massive storm, and New Orleans could now be in big trouble again. Here's what we know. The storm is packing top sustained winds of about 175 miles per hour. This morning, it has taken a turn to the west-northwest, which could bring it closer to New Orleans and other parts of Louisiana when it comes ashore. More than 1 million people have been ordered to get out along the Gulf Coast, and coming up, we'll have the latest on Rita's path and what authorities are doing to try to get people out of harm's way.
Meanwhile, Matt, did you watch the JetBlue story unfold last night on live television?
Someone called me and said, turn this on, and then I couldn't turn it off. It was really compelling.
Very compelling. And, of course, when these things happen, many of us wonder, what was it like inside that plane? Well, this morning we're going to show you exactly what happened. We've obtained exclusive video shot by a man who was on board. He even leaves an emotional message for his friends and family, so you know how frightening the situation was. And his camera was also rolling as the plane came in for a bumpy landing. So we'll tell you more about that. Also, a little bit later on, is arguing really good for your marriage? We're going to find out how men and women argue differently. Plus, she's NBC's own magic genie. Amy Grant will tell us why she's granting 3 wishes every week.
But first, Hurricane Rita, a dangerous Category 5 storm. Al Roker's been tracking it throughout the night, and he's got the latest, Al.
All right, Matt and Katie, thank you very much. Again, this is a monster storm. We're talking about the 3rd deepest pressure of a storm ever recorded in the Atlantic. 515 miles southeast of Galveston, 175 miles per hour. That is a strong Category 5. It's moving west-northwest at about 9 miles per hour. This is the track of the storm. Now, yesterday, it was just to the west of Galveston. Today, it's about the track for this storm. The projected path brings it about 30 miles to the east of Galveston. Now, that's good news for Galveston because it keeps them on the west side of the storm. The bad news is for Louisiana, they are in the stronger part of the storm. A minimum 2 to 4 inches of rain when it makes landfall. Storm surges of 2 to 4 feet above the high tides. Normally, hurricane watches from Port Mansfield to Intercoastal City, Louisiana, so you can see everybody along this area has to keep an eye out. Why is the storm strengthening so much? Well, it's out over the Gulf. This is basically hurricane fuel. Think of this as an engine. The hurricane is feeding off the warm waters of the Gulf. Water temperatures of about the mid-80s, and the problem is those 80-degree temperatures extend all the way to the Gulf Coast shoreline, and so rising air, moist warm air coming up and bringing all that energy into this storm continues to feed it. And what that does is it continues to bring higher winds. What we're hoping is, as once this storm reaches its maximum, it's actually going to start to implode on itself and hopefully start to deteriorate a little bit. But even if it does, it's still going to be, at minimum, a strong Category 4, still possibly a 5 when it makes landfall sometime Saturday morning. Katie and Matt?
All right, Al, thanks so much. Of course, we're going to have much more on Rita in a moment. But first, the dramatic landing of that crippled JetBlue plane in Los Angeles on Wednesday. This morning, we're going to show you what it was like on board the plane as it happened. NBC's George Lewis has more on that story. George, good morning.
Good morning, Katie. Lucky to be alive this morning. That's how many of the passengers from JetBlue Flight 292 say they feel. And we've obtained some exclusive video shot aboard that flight.
Shortly after Flight 292 took off, the pilot informed the passengers he had on the Airbus A320 was turned sideways and couldn't be straightened out or retracted.
The first unusual thing was
Renitz took out his camcorder and taped a farewell message to his girlfriend, just in case.
Says, I love you. Everything is going to be groovy, but if anything happens, you know, take care of everything. Everything it's yours. And, show this to my mom, family, tell everyone I love.
Pilots circled Southern California for those 3 hours, burning off excess fuel. The whole nation watched on television. And so did the passengers, because JetBlue's planes have a satellite TV system that picked up the news coverage.
Once we saw that we'd made the national news on the...
Approached the runway at Los Angeles International. On board, the passengers were ordered to brace.
Brace, brace, brace.
As the broken nose wheel touched the runway, a huge cloud of smoke and a shower of sparks shot up from all the friction. But the plane did not catch fire, and the pilot was able to keep it straight down the middle of the runway as it skidded to a safe stop. And then, for Flight 292, the long ordeal was over. Passenger Alexandra Jacobs, 6.5 months pregnant, was overjoyed to be back with her husband.
My first thought was about my husband, and I was concerned that he would just, what a horrible thing for him if you lost your baby and me.
But it all ended happily with no one injured. And one of the passengers, this cat, slept through the whole thing.
Now this morning at 6 a.m., the passengers from Flight 292 got to JFK Airport in New York City, ending their long ordeal. And many of them said they were happy to be back home in New York and to be in the waiting arms of their family. So indeed, a very happy ending this morning to the saga of Flight 292. Katie?
All right, thank goodness. George Lewis, thanks so much. It is 7:07 now. Here's Matt.
All right, Katie, thanks. The story really hits home for us here at NBC because some of our finance executives were actually on board that flight. Among them, Michael Michelli and Andrew Warren. Guys, good morning to both of you.
Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Matt.
Andrew, let me start by saying you guys fly a lot. I mean, you're used to being in the air. But what was your reaction when you first heard a few minutes after takeoff that there was a problem with the front gear?
Well, Matt, I've done so much flying that I'm used to, some things happening during a flight. So,
Looked out into the cabin. What was the reaction?
it was total elation, and everyone really wanted, Matt.
Yeah, way to go.
Absolutely, doing our best.
Yeah, I know. Michael Michelli and Andrew Warren, we're happy you guys are okay, and thanks for talking to us.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Matt.
It's 10 after the hour. Here's Katie.
Matt, thanks. Now more on Hurricane Rita. With a Category 5 storm taking a turn closer to New Orleans, people there are racing the clock, trying to shore up the city's levees. NBC's Mark Mullen is in New Orleans. Hey, Mark, good morning.
Katie, good morning to you. I was listening to Al's forecast about the projected path, how it's veering a little bit closer to New Orleans, but I have to tell you this morning in all candor, there are not a ton of hurricane preparations going on here throughout the greater New Orleans area in Louisiana. Yes, they have taken people off of the oil rigs in the Gulf of Mexico. Yes, they're doing their best to prop up the infrastructure around New Orleans, but most storm preps usually revolve around people, and most of the people in New Orleans are already gone. One thing, this broken city had towards New Orleans, but at least right now, they're watching the weather along with anyone else and remaining at least cautiously optimistic that even 4 or 5 inches of rain, which may fall here, a bit which is falling right now, the city can take. They're hoping so anyway, Katie.
All right, Mark Mullen in New Orleans. Thanks so much. It is coming up on 7:13. Once again, here's Matt.
And Katie, we move now 300 miles to the west to the island city of Galveston, Texas, which could get battered by this storm. Weekend Today's Lester Holt is there with the latest on the preparations. Lester, what's going on there?
Matt, good morning. 58,000 people live in this city, but a day and a half before Rita makes herself known, this city has largely emptied out. They've put special emphasis on getting the most vulnerable out, the elderly and the sick. Katrina is the template that's keeping everyone in action here, but they also remember in 1900, the deadliest hurricane to hit this country hit Galveston, 6,000 to 12,000 people dead. And with all that knowledge, city officials here know exactly what to do.
This is Interstate 45.
Nearly 1 million residents along the Texas coast are not wasting any time. They're complying with the mandatory evacuation alert and getting out of town.
I'm just taking the bare essentials, medicine, toiletries, some of our clothes.
The mass exodus from Galveston hasn't been easy. There is only one